Good morning, good morning, good morning. Let's get a little bit of a message here and see what's going on. Sorry, I don't know when y'all are going to get this, but it's 10:43 for me. Shout out to the 143. How are you guys doing? I ain't gonna lie, this is funny too. Alright, so this is definitely a message for the 143. Because we got one. Why am I drawing a blank? Because I saw it as a 4 when it first popped out, 4, and then I saw this as a 3. So we got Aries. What is that? Saturn? You crazy? Yeah, Saturn, Capricorn. Control and structure. All right, what's going on with the runes here? Rings of communication, the webs. All right, the web. Aw. The things that bind us to the webs. So you see what we got going on? The attitude around it today. Y'all are having a good day. The universe is trying to blank with me, and I refuse to engage. It's supposed to be hard. If it wasn't hard, everyone would do it. The hard is what makes it great. There's no crying in baseball. Nothing is impossible, meaning all things are possible, even impossibility. Every rose has its thorns, and I can see for miles and miles. All right. Definitely got the vibe that everybody's picking up on these synchronicities and things like that. Oh, the static gets loud when all the planets are working together. Especially when they're working together to try to tell you something. Especially when the big boys are involved. Right? When you got large planets retrograding, large planets transitioning back and forth between retrogrades. Definitely storm season, right? I was talking to somebody the other day about that. It was like, yeah, there was like hurricane season's not over. They're like, oh, I thought it was just during the summer. I'm like, nah, man, that goes all the way to November. Ooh. The temple of my body and the child I was meant to be. Temple of my body and the child I was meant to be. One of the first books I was introduced to was a sun sign book, and it talked about in it, because the Aries energies here, about Aries children. They tend to have scars on their faces and stuff like that because they're very running into things and falling forward. They're always running into things head first, you know, like a goat. Cram. It's a big joke for us around here with Aries people. And a lot of those people, when they're little, they'll tend to be diagnosed with things with ADHD, things like that, right? They're impulsive, they can't sit still, they're crazy, they're all over the place. And that tends to get kind of beaten out of them over their lives, right? Because the world, I don't know, what am I picking up? I'm picking up Percy Jackson. You ever seen that movie where the goat is explaining to him, like, all his problems in the regular school are actually, you know, his great gifts that are given to him, the impulsiveness, the response skills, things like that. He was meant to be, you know, a Greek warrior, and that's why he can read Greek, but he has trouble reading regular language, you know, for some reason, second language is coming easier. Things like that, right? You're convinced from a small age by the system that those are all your bad gifts, right? Alright. So there's definitely a King of Swords being picked up here. Getting an energy of somebody who's very, very quiet. Somebody who's watching. It's a lot to watch here. We're starting out on this line. We've got the Queen of Cups here, right? I love her in this deck because she kind of gives off that vampire vibe, right? But she's the Queen of Cups. It's one of the most loving, nurturing characters, right? So it's like this kind of shadowy Queen of Cups person, right? And we've got the Ace of Pentacles here. The way she's biting that rose. Getting the every rose has its thorn type of thing. And then there he is. Once again, I'm doing the arch here. So there he is on the 3D watching over this, right? I've got the 8 of Wands. So I feel like this is someone who's watching over someone who's going through a lot right now, who's making a lot of moves or making a lot of movement or has moved or things of that nature. There's stuff going on. They're in a transition phase. I feel like this person's isolated and can be kind of alone themselves. This one is definitely giving off a King of Swords and an 8 of Swords type of situation, right? Up on that balcony, imprisoned himself within his own swords, right? There's definitely, this Queen of Cups, this Vampiric Queen of Cups energy that I'm picking up here on the 3D, that's going through this transition, this movement, this change, right? It seems a bit in isolation. There's actually a lot more going on that can be seen or coming into being seen, right? Because it's on the 3D, so it's starting to be noticed a little bit more. There's definitely a lot of conjuring going on in her part, right? You had the 2 where you're kind of looking for it, and the 3 is what? No, there's been castings and now it's waiting for the return, right? Waiting for those ships to come in, waiting to see them heading over the horizons. Don't mind the sniffles. It's hay fever season here. It's the last big bloom. I want to go out and try to get up some goldenrod. There's wild hibiscus that was growing over there a little while ago. And swamp roses. On the 40... On the 40, I'm getting an understanding. There's definitely an understanding going on that there's definitely a death and a rebirth cycle happening right now. It's happening for a lot of people. There's a lot of transitions happening. And there's an acceptance of allowing, you have to just not allow, you have to allow certain timelines to die. Like a lot of people will stay in very toxic, negative relationships, places, dynamics, things like that for prolonged periods of time because they're comfort zones. And in order to transition out of that comfort zone, you have to let certain things die in order for new things to be reborn, right? We've got a Queen of Pentacles and we've got a King of Pentacles here, right? And I've got this 4 of Cups here in the middle. Now for the 4 of Cups, for me, it says luxury on this card, but it's not so much a luxury card for me for personal definition. It's kind of an overindulgence card. It could be overindulging in something that's distracting, something that's... Yeah, it's distracting to the point where it's making you miss opportunities. There's something going on. There's something, and I'm getting like the gist of, yes, okay, that's it. Whatever the situation is, we've got a Queen of Pentacles and we've got a King of Pentacles. They're separated on the 3D. That was obvious, right? And what is separating them is, I feel, gilded cages, right? Situations that they're stuck in for comfort. And because they're trying to maintain a certain level of comfort and maintaining these 3 cups here, they're missing out on this cup that's trying to be offered to them, right? I feel like they could both be aware of this too, because at the end here we do have the Strength card. So you're beginning with the Major Arcana of Death and Rebirth, and then there's a building time of Strength. I also kind of like how both these characters are kind of in resting positions at the moment, right? What I say about the Three of Wands, that could even be both of them. This one's sitting here resting his animal, whereas the Knight of Swords in this one is in full motion, and the King of Wands is in full motion. This one's kind of resting. He's letting the horse eat and relax. I like how she's sitting here. I like how this Queen of Pentacles has that Aries grounded energy. You might want to think, why would you put a goat on the Pentacles card? But Pentacles is the Earth card, and mountain goats actually have sensors in their feet, which is what helped them climb so well, right? I like how it's very out of place there in the middle of the desert. What kind of goats live in the desert? I don't know. It'll probably be in my Google search history later. Alright. On the 5D. On the 5D, I'm definitely picking up a masculine energy that has been on a journey themselves, right? They have gone from a Knight of Pentacles, Knight of Cauldrons energy. And this is the wine or dine, immature spending, wasting money frivolously on females type of thing. You know what I'm saying? This is definitely, can give off the Captain Save-A-Ho type of energy. And just being, yeah. But it's the Knight. It's not full-on irresponsible like the Pages are. These are the Knights. They're a little bit more guarded. They're not as out there with it. They can be guarded with their stuff and stuff like that, but they still tend to have these little pitfalls. Knights can be triggered into action, right? They're triggered into action. They're called to action by something, whether it be a king, whether it be a queen, whether it be a damsel in distress. That's what activates the Knights. But the Knights are already educated enough that they're learning to be kings, right? See what I'm saying? So this is someone who's coming out of this Knight energy. I feel like they focus a lot on spilt cups, right? That's what I'm talking about, letting go of those past timelines. It's not the person that's hurting your feelings, and it's really not. I mean, I know you feel like it is, and I know it feels like it's this whole game on the fucking 3D, and it's all mind games and stuff, but what it really, really boils down to, what is triggering, is it's the timeline. It's not necessarily the person themselves that you missed out on. It's everything that encompasses. It's the whole life you had envisioned in timeline that you put around them. But that is exactly why when we say, when you are casting intentions, never cast your intentions solely around a specific person. When you cast it around a specific person, then that's when these things happen. When it puts too much, you can't put all of that on one person. Just can't. So this is the King of Swords now, right? That's why he's on the balcony on the 3D. That's why he's not rushing into nothing. What he's like, what I've keep knocking over tables, spilling cups, fucking shit up. I'm just gonna watch and see what's happening. What I want to see what's happening when everybody's done with the Eight of Rods moving around and shifting around energy. I feel like there's somebody who's waiting for a final shift, or waiting for an opportunity for a final shift to happen. It's time to reach in, storm season, and seize upon your own power, right? Call it down to you. Remember who you were before people started telling you who you were supposed to be. Remember who you were before you got jaded. Remember who you were before you got hurt. Remember who you were when you were gentle pages and damsels and everything else, and your hearts were all full, and you were maidens, and you were youth warriors, and before you got all this wonderful sage and crone and mother and, elder energies going for you. Remember who you were. It's important to still have fun, right? It's important to still have fun and take care of yourself. That's the temple of my body that I'm picking up here. I have a feeling that a lot of people punish their own bodies in some way, shape, or form as a way of punishing themselves for whatever they might be acting childish about. Also, it could be that overindulgence card. You could be overindulging with something that's very toxic for your body, that's hurting you. You could have a childlike tendency to not want to let go of whatever this is that is hurting you, regardless of how much the evidence is proving it's doing that to you. I.e., case in point, something like soda, or cigarettes, or anything that's anything that is slowly killing you. Like, you're well aware that it's absolutely horrible for you and it's slowly killing you. You really need to ask yourself why you're punishing yourself, right? Why you're desecrating your own temple. That's why we'd say things like that in the spiritual community. And also ask yourself where you picked up that behavior pattern, right? If you ask yourself where you picked it up, sometimes you can ping it to a person, and instead of being an admirable trait or something you want to hold on to, that'll be the trigger you'll be like, oh man, what? I hated that person growing up. Like, that was my worst hated, most hated, whatever in your life at the time, right? They were so annoying and this, that, and the other thing. And it's like, oh my God, I do that now. It's a pet peeve on yourself. But if you can attach it to somebody that, whatever, instead of being an attribute that you developed as a self-punishing mechanism, you can put it towards as, switch the flip on it and put it as, that's an attribute I don't want to have anymore. Make sense? I don't want to have that attribute, and I don't want to pass it on. This is learned behaviors that can be unlearned. This is all wet work in neuroprocessing. I mean, I know it's not easy, all of it. It's not easy to program your brain to, to tell it that nerve pain isn't really pain. And it's not easy to convince yourself that you can heal. It's not easy to convince yourself of these things, right? The reason the placebo effect is so hard to study is because they don't know what the difference is between certain people's brains that can manifest the placebo effect and certain people's brains who can't, But anybody can reprogram any thought processes they want, as long as they take the time to just recognize that they have the toxic pattern, have the toxic fallback. And once you recognize the pattern, that is the first step to breaking any toxic pattern. Alrighty. Anything else before we go? Any final thoughts from the universe? Fire away. Okay, first I wasn't going to read all these, but I guess since that's the main card that came out. Alright. Fire away. All that we are is a result of what we have thought. And who taught you how to think? He'll only leave you better off. Here's the deal. I'm the best there is. I just wake up and piss excellence. The Encyclopedia Galactica, on its chapter of love, states that it is far too complicated to define, and the Hitchhiker's Galaxy has this to say on it, on the subject: avoid, if at all possible. Blessed be all those who walk these weird and winding paths with me. I love y'all, and I'll be back as soon as I can, I promise.